The NFL is now a year-round sport, and the Monday morning quarterback knows all. He's got all the moves after the fact and tries to call the shots. Let's rate the top 5 worst reaction days on the NFL calendar. So the Monday after a Dallas Cowboys blowout win at home over an NFC East team is always the absolute worst. I'm not Stephen A. Smith with the Cowboys hate, and frankly, I don't have anything against them, but seriously, how many times have you been around on a Sunday and it's like week 7 and the Cowboys are running away from the Giants in Jerry World? What happens with this is everybody talks about how good the Cowboys are and this and that, and they end up losing earlier in the playoffs anyways. We've seen the movie a million times, but it'll still get replayed and shared more than anything else on social media because it's Dallas. All you have to do is sit back and wait, and the Dallas season, as usual, gets chaotic, and some of the fans just go nuts, lose their mind on everything. But again, I mean, I've seen a million, Dallas Cowboys versus New York Giants blowouts and such like that. It just doesn't really mean anything in the grand scheme, but it feels like the world just ended to all the other teams, or all the other fans, I should say, that are watching and reacting to the Cowboys running away from another bad team. NFL schedule release day. This one is so bad. The hardest thing to do as a sports fan is predict the NFL week to week. Yes, it's a lot easier over the years. As we know, it's been pretty easy to somehow pick the Chiefs to go to the Super Bowl every year. Even back in the day, if you said the Patriots were going to go to the Super Bowl or be a contender, you're going to be right so much. Again, that's talking about years, but the week to week is so ridiculous to predict, and when the schedule comes out, people suddenly have a magic wand. They think they've picked up the 8-ball and can predict every game, so what they do is they start going through each week and like, oh, that's going to be such a bad game and a bad situation, and it's like, we don't know anything about these teams yet, really, until we get to see them in this kind of chaotic sport where you get so much turnover year to year, coaches are fired, everything, teams are completely different year to year, and so trying to predict a lot of the teams that will be new players in the equation is very difficult. So sitting there and trying to hand pick through the schedule release what's going to be bad and good is just kind of a waste of time when you're sitting there in May, and we're not going to see any of these teams until September. And I feel like it's weird because people know that the NFL is hard to predict on that week-to-week basis, but they'll still go through and act like they can guarantee every result after the schedule release comes out and sit there and react like the world just ended. So the day of rounds 2 and 3 of the NFL draft, the day after the first round, is always an absolute nightmare. We all know that this last draft, Shedeur Sanders was the talk of the draft, but he's not the only first round slide, and we always get the big overreactions for who fell in the draft. Then in reality, nobody really mentions it in the future, as except maybe a small part of the discussion about a player's legacy later on. But in the moment, I mean, as we saw with a lot of broadcast, it feels like everything was ending as to where somebody's going to go, but at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter as much. They kind of go where they go, and that's just a part of it, and people act like the world is ending. But at the end of the day, the problem with it is, all these guys are getting their one shining moment to walk across the stage and sit there and really take all the glory in, but half the time, there's that one player who's slid, or there's one team that everybody's waiting to make a move that hogs all the headlines and attention. So it's kind of like you're taking so much of the sweetness of the moment out of it because we're always distracted by one or two different storylines. It's just such a nightmare day, because especially with the first round tag, everybody is obsessed with being picked in the first round. I get it's a big ego thing for some guys or some people that are fans of these guys, but at the end of the day, if you go out there and produce and you're the first pick of the third round, nobody's really going to remember that most of the time when you're out there balling out, as opposed to anybody that could have been a first round pick and pick 20th or whatever. It just doesn't matter too much in the grand scheme after the draft, but while it's happening, again, you could have sworn aliens were invading. At this point, the NFL, like I did say, it's easy to predict over the years, and so the Kansas City Chiefs are always a great team, and at this point it does feel like they are pretty hopeless to be stopped. I mean, it's insane they made another Super Bowl this last season. Even though they lost, they were still a very good team, and it just felt annoying watching that team almost for most people. They're like, how are we ever going to stop them? Even these close games that you feel like you get them on the ropes, they won't go down. And the day after a Kansas City Chiefs loss, everybody tries to act like they're all of a sudden the dynasty stopped. They act like everything is basically going to just, fall to the ground. And every year people pick against the Chiefs, it backfires. So why do we have a hot take after they lose one regular season game? I don't get it. But again, once you see people, they will always go on, destroy the Chiefs, act like things are going to go in the negative direction, feel like the roller coaster is going to fall off the tracks, crash and burn because of one regular season loss. And it's not the Chiefs fans who really do it as much as most of the other NFL fans. fans. And I get, again, you want the dynasty to kind of end at this point. I understand that if you're a frustrated fan and another fan base, but preying on the downfall of the team or acting like things are all over just to kind of talk yourself into it after they lose one regular season game isn't going to push that closer to reality. And guys, at number one, the Monday morning after week one, really, that's kind of the end of it. I know you get Monday Night Football, but at the end of the day, still all the games have pretty much concluded. And guys, just the absolute worst takes of the season come out here. And really, week one, it's just an extension of the preseason. There's a lot of teams that aren't playing any of the starters in the preseason anymore. There's also minimal hitting and stuff in practice now too, so it's really hard to have any big takeaways from week one, and we see it all the time. I mean, people act like everything is just shifted, they have all this new information, and really, they don't have too much more information than they had in the preseason. And I mean, just an example, you would think the world's going to end and the 2017 Cleveland Browns were going to win the Super Bowl after playing the Pittsburgh Steelers tough in the first game of the season, but obviously things don't hold, and that's how a lot of the week one results go. They don't hold going out throughout the rest of the year. There's a ton of stuff that happens that has no correlation later on in the season as these teams continue to develop. And everybody has their snap judgments, and there's always two of those few guys that are trying to tell everybody everything that will happen, then proceed to drain their wallet on losing parlays every week throughout the rest of the season. I will say at the end of the day, I'm probably just as guilty as anyone that this video applies to. Part of the lore of football is overreacting and having that Monday morning quarterback discussion, especially because there's so much hype for each game when you have only one per week. Of course, there's going to be some season proclamations from excited fans after each win or loss. Nonetheless, that doesn't make any of these days any less annoying and dreadful to a lot of us. Drop some comments and a like down below if you have any thoughts. Feel free to subscribe if you like content like this. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next video.